Hello and welcome to Idea TV Midday News. I am Cynthia Bassi. We begin with the headlines. INEC pledges glitch-free results transmission in 2027. Zimbabwe, South Africa and Zambia signed transport deal to cut border delays. Rising tension around HORMUZ and SUEZ threaten Africa with energy and trade crisis. Iran-US tensions may push Nigeria's fuel prices higher, and away from Africa, Iranian drone strikes UK military base RUNWAY in Cyprus. China urges ceasefire and diplomacy to end Middle East conflict. And in business, Nigeria's GDP growth rises to 4.07% in fourth quarter 2025. Federal government AFC signed $1.3 billion ALUMINA refinery deal. In health, federal government commends PLATEAU for primary health care reforms, and in sport, Arsenal edged 10-man Chelsea 2-1 to go 5 points clear. Now the news in full. The Independent National Electoral Commission has assured Nigerians that the technical setbacks which affected the electronic transmission of results during the 2023 general election will not reoccur in 2027. Speaking at the Citizens Town Hall on the Electoral Act 2026 in Abuja, INEC Chairman Joash Amopitan said the Commission has resolved the system failures that hindered real-time uploads to the INEC result viewing portal. Amopitan explained that although the bimodal voter accreditation system was deployed successfully in off-cycle governorship elections before 2023, the nationwide scale of the presidential poll exposed weaknesses in system stress testing across states. He noted that the elections globally now rely heavily on technology and emphasized the importance of rigorous pre-deployment testing. He added that INEC has since strengthened its preparations and conducted more extensive testing to prevent future disruptions. Addressing concerns about legal provisions allowing alternative methods of coalition, Amopitan described them as precautionary safeguards, reaffirming the Commission's commitment to delivering what he called a near-perfect election in 2027. Still in Africa, Zimbabwe, South Africa and Zambia have signed binding commitments to improve cross-border transport connectivity and reduce congestion along key trade corridors. The agreement was reached after a 3-day meeting in Harare between the Joint Trilateral Route Management Committee and the Joint Committee, with a focus on easing the movement of goods and people. The partnership targets persistent border bottlenecks, regulatory misalignment, and infrastructure gaps that slow trade. The three governments says the new measures will harmonize regulations, improve corridor efficiency, and support industrialization in line with the goals of the African Continental Free Trade Area and deeper integration within the Southern African Development Community. The move follows the recent launch of the Kazungula Bridge Authority by Zambia and Botswana, aimed at easing congestion along the strategic Kazungula corridor. CADC projects for freight volumes for landlocked member states will rise to 50 million tons by 2030 and 148 million tons by 2040, reflecting annual growth of 8.2%, increasing pressure on regional transport infrastructure and reinforcing the urgency of coordinated reforms. Military escalation between Iran, Israel and the United States is raising alarm over Africa's exposure to disruptions in two critical global trade and energy checkpoints, the Strait of HORMUZ and the SUEZ Canal. The conflict intensified after joint Israeli-American strikes killed Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, prompting missile and drone attacks across the region and threats against shipping in the Red Sea. The Strait of HORMUZ handles about 20% of global oil exports and is essential for liquefied natural gas shipments from Qatar. Any prolonged disclosure would push up global energy prices, directly impacting African nations that remain net importers of petroleum products. Simultaneously, attacks on the Red Sea Suez corridor, responsible for nearly 30% of the global container traffic, threaten trade flows between Asia, Europe and Africa, particularly affecting East African nations like Djibouti Kenya, Tanzania, and Sudan. Experts warn that a simultaneous disruption in both corridors could trigger a dual energy and logistical shock, rising fuel and freight costs, higher imported inflation, fiscal strain, and intensified pressure on African currencies. Past disruptions have already shown the economic vulnerabilities, with the Suez Canal alone losing an estimated $7 billion in revenues over 2024 due to regional instability. Analysts further emphasize the urgency for African economies to strengthen energy self-sufficiency and reduce dependency on global trade routes to mitigate the impacts of such crises. Escalating hostilities between the United States and Iran could trigger a fresh rise in petrol and diesel prices in Nigeria if global crude prices climb above $90 per barrel, energy experts have warned. The renewed Middle East conflict has already injected volatility into the oil market, with fears that disruptions around the strategic Strait of HORMUZ could tighten global supply. As of late Sunday, Brent crude traded around $72.87 per barrel, while Nigeria's Bonny Light stood at $78.62. Analysts say prices could spike towards $90 to $100 if tensions worsen. Although Nigeria is Africa's largest crude oil producer and now hosts the massive Dangote refinery, experts note that a significant portion of the refinery feedstock is still imported, exposing domestic fuel prices to global shocks. War risk insurance premiums on tankers operating near the Gulf have also risen, potentially increasing landing costs. Industry stakeholders, including marketers and energy economists, say the removal of fuel subsidies means any sustained crude price increase will directly reflect at the pump. While higher oil prices could boost government revenue, they may also raise transportation and production costs nationwide. And experts stress that boosting crude production, curbing oil theft, and ensuring sufficient domestic supply to local refineries remain critical to shielding Nigeria from recurring international oil price shocks. We go on a quick break now. The news continues when we return.
Democratize generative AI. Generative AI, which creates new content like text, images, or music, is becoming more accessible. This trend is enabling businesses and individuals to leverage powerful AI tools without needing deep technical expertise. Tools like DALL-E are already transforming marketing, entertainment, and design. However, as generative AI becomes democratized, concerns about copyright infringement and misuse of content are rising.
Welcome back. If you're just joining, this is Idea TV Media News. Now, the rest of the news. Away from Africa, an Iranian drone has struck the runway of a British military base in Cyprus as tensions from the U.S.-Israel conflict with Iran spill further across the region. Cyprus President Nikos Christodoulos said a Shahed unnamed area vehicle crashed into facilities at the British base in Akrotiri shortly after midnight, causing minor material damage. Britain's Foreign Secretary Vet Cooper confirmed the strike hit the runway but said precautionary security measures were immediately activated. The targeted site, RAF Akrotiri, is a key Royal Air Force base and British overseas territory near Limassol. The European Union pledged firm solidarity with Cyprus, while European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the bloc stands collectively, firmly and unequivocally with member states facing threats. The incident comes after the UK allowed the United States to use British bases for defensive strikes against Iranian missile systems, with Prime Minister Keir Starmer stressing Britain is not participating in offensive operations. Still away from Africa, China has called on an immediate ceasefire and diplomatic engagement as the Middle East conflict enters its third day. China's Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning stressed the urgency of halting military operations to prevent regional spillover and encourage resolution through dialogue and negotiation. The escalation follows coordinated strikes by Israel and the United States on Iran and Lebanon, including the killing of Iran's supreme leader. Mao confirmed that one Chinese citizen was killed in Tehran and that the embassy is assisting the affected family. More than 3,000 Chinese nationals have now left Iran amid rising security concerns. China was not informed ahead of the U.S. operations and has, along with Russia, urged the UN Security Council to hold an emergency meeting. Beijing also noted ongoing communications with Washington ahead of the U.S. President Donald Trump's planned visit to China from March 31st to April 2nd, underscoring the importance of maintaining dialogue amid the crisis. Now in business news, Nigeria recorded 4.07% year-on-year GDP growth in the fourth quarter of 2025, up from 3.98% in the previous quarter and higher than 3.76% in the fourth quarter of 2024, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. The oil sector expanded by 6.79%, supported by average crude production of 1.58 million barrels per day. Oil contributed 2.87% to total GDP during the quarter. Meanwhile, the non-oil sector grew 3.99% and remained dominant, accounting for 97.13% of total GDP, driven by agriculture, ICT, trade, real estate, and financial services. Agriculture grew 4%, industry 3.88%, while services slowed slightly to 4.15%. Macroeconomic indicators also improved. Foreign reserve climbed to $50.45 billion in mid-February 2026, the highest level in 13 years, covering nearly 10 months of imports. Inflation eased to 15.10% in January 2026, down sharply from 34.19% in June 2024. The federal government projects 4.68% growth in 2026, slightly above the 4.4% forecast by the International Monetary Fund, citing easing inflation and exchange rate stability as key drivers. Still in business news, the Nigerian federal government has signed a $1.3 billion memorandum of understanding with the Africa Finance Corporation (AFC) to fund a landmark alumina refinery project and aimed at boosting the mining sector's contribution to GDP. The agreement, executed through the Solid Minerals Development Fund (SMDF), will support the construction of a refinery designed to produce 1 million tons of alumina annually using a modern bioprocess system with an on-site gas-fired power plant. Minister of Solid Minerals Development Dele Alake described the investment as a landmark foreign direct investment that will transform Nigeria's mining industry. The facility is projected to operate for about 20 years at 95% utilization, generating an estimated 19 million tons of alumina over its lifespan. Officials say the project will contribute $1.2 billion annually to GDP, inject over $25 billion into the economy across its life cycle, and generates $8 billion in foreign exchange earnings. AFC President and CEO Samaila Zubairu witnessed the signing alongside senior ministry officials. The partners also agreed to establish a joint strategic investment vehicle to accelerate mineral exploration and development nationwide. Authorities say the initiative aligns with broader reforms under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu aimed at strengthening regulation, attracting private capital, and positioning Nigeria as a globally competitive minerals destination. In health news now, the federal government of Nigeria has praised the Plateau state government for significant progress in strengthening primary health care delivery. The coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Muhammad Pate, gave the commendation in Jos during the graduation of Cohort 1.0 and onboarding of Cohort 2.0 of the National Health Fellows, represented by Pokop Bobwada, Chief Medical Director of Jos University Teaching Hospital. The minister said Plateau has made notable strides through revitalized facilities, improved budgetary support, expanded health insurance for vulnerable groups, and stronger planning systems focused on maternal and child health. He noted that the state led in implementing resolutions from the 2024 National Council of Health, attributing the success to strong political will. The minister also highlighted the National Health Fellowship Program approved in 2024 by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, aimed at building the capacity of young Nigerians across the 774 local government areas to drive healthcare innovation. Plateau Governor Caleb Mutfwang, represented by Deputy Governor Josephine Pio, described the initiative as a transformative movement aligned with national health reforms efforts. Officials. Okay, moving on to sports news now. Arsenal FC restored their 5-point lead at the top of the table with a hard 4-2-1 victory over 10-man Chelsea FC at the Emirates. William Saliba opened the scoring with a header from a corner before Jurgen Timber struck after the break, taking Arsenal's league lead in set-piece tally to 16 goals this season. Chelsea had briefly leveled through an own goal by Piero Hincapié, but were reduced to 10 men when Pedro Neto received a second yellow card, their 7th red card of the campaign under manager Liam Rosenell. Despite enjoying 59% possession, the visitors could not capitalize on their control. Goalkeeper David Raya produced key saves to preserve the lead as Arsenal extended their unbeaten run against Chelsea to 12 matches. With 9 games remaining, the victory strengthens Arsenal's title charge and keeps them firmly in control at the summit. That's all we have for you on Idea TV Midday News. But before we go, here is a recap of the headlines. We brought to you news that INEC pledges glitch-free results transmission in 2027. Zimbabwe, South Africa and Zambia signed transport deal to cut border delays. Rising tension around HORMUZ and SUEZ threaten Africa with energy and trade crisis. Iran-US tensions may push Nigeria's fuel prices higher and away from Africa. Iranian drone strikes UK military base RUNWAY in Cyprus. And China urges ceasefire and diplomacy to end Middle East conflict. In business, Nigeria's GDP growth rises to 4.07% in fourth quarter 2025. Federal government, AFC, signed $1.3 billion ALUMINA refinery deal. And in health, federal government commenced PLATEAU for primary healthcare reforms. And finally, in sport, Arsenal edged 10-man Chelsea 2-1 to go 5 points clear. Do not forget to follow us across all our social media platforms at Idea Television. I am Cynthia Bassi. Thank you for your time.